I feel like we literally miss somebody who would say one more time, right? Yeah, with the bang, like But where's the clapping of hands? Or we do? Am I too early today?
No, you're too early.
I'm too early. Yes. Welcome to it again. Mzansi Podcast live and direct from our Johannesburg studios. People have been asking, Sepi, why do we keep on saying Johannesburg studios? You only have one studio, and I'm like, you don't know us. And it's cool. No, we have Devon Studios, we have Cape Town Studios, and no, we're in Johannesburg Studios. I am Tebinti. Welcome to it. I am with my partner in crime.
Yeah, boy, yes. This is your boy, Ayanda. Welcome to the show, guys. Thank you so much for joining us again. We are back at it live from our Johannesburg studios. So today, guys, we'll be talking about an important topic that is actually affecting all of us in South Africa. Not only here in South Africa, actually, but across the world. This is one of those issues that most of the youth we find ourselves into. 10% of the youth has been confirmed that they find themselves using these substances. So not only that, but we'll be talking again as well on the gender-based violence. So today we are joined by our guest, Sechaba. So we'll be talking deep and understanding about what's happening, talking through of what he's been through and his life. This is your boy, Ayanda. Welcome.
So this is how we welcome our guests.
Nah,
You're not just anyone. You are Shai.
Yes.
You know, we appreciate your contribution, your presence.
Thank you.
To this famous couch.
No, definitely.
Not anyone sits here.
Yeah,
you have to be very special to sit on this couch. By the way. So we welcome you. As Ayanda has been saying, we are touching base on substance abuse.
Yeah.
So it's very predominant amongst young people who are abusing substances such as alcohol, Sechaba.
Yes.
Drugs, weed, cigarettes even. Now we have hubbly-bubbly.
Yes, we've got e-cigarettes, we've got hubblies,
Yes.
we've got so many substances that are out there that people are abusing.
Yeah.
And I always make this example.
Sure.
Ask an alcoholic, ask a beer drinker, a whiskey drinker, wine drinker, it doesn't matter, as long as they drink alcohol.
Yes.
Ask them what they make alcohol from, and they'll be able to tell you every single ingredient, if not 60 to 70% of it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
But ask somebody who's on drugs with what that substance that you're taking.
Yeah.
What do they make it out of? And
Sure.
9 times out of 10, the answer that you get is I don't know.
Yeah. It just, I don't know, makes them tick.
Yeah. And you're like, okay, I like the feeling.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
You know, I love the feeling. I love that it numbs the problems, and I'm like, but you're lying.
Sure.
Because it's a straight up lie. It's a straight up lie.
And it actually answers my question, the question that you were asking. If 10% of South Africans are using substances, so it's not only drugs.
Of South Africans, you say?
Yes. It's
10%
not only
of
drugs.
South Africans.
It's even more than that.
Yes.
Because we've got alcohol, like you mentioned, we've got cigarette, we've got
Hubby,
everything that you smoke. Hubby, you might find these kids smoking hubby and be thinking that it's only that flavor.
That flavor.
And here's a
And it is
critical
drugs.
factor. Apparently, hubbly-bubbly equates to 60 cigarettes. Then you can Google this.
Definitely. That's
It equates to, with just one hubbly-bubbly. Have you seen how thick that smoke is? Yeah. So it equates to how to hubbly-bubbly.
Yes.
The cigarettes is 60.
60.
By the way, that's suit.
And you can imagine that cigarette, what it does.
Imagine what it
to
does
your
to
lungs.
your lungs, yeah, even to your kidneys. So, Sechaba, it's good to have you here. You are here to share your experience, right?
Yeah.
As a recovering drug addict, and I'm utilizing the word recovering because I know it is a journey. Recovery is a journey; it's not a destination. Okay, talk us through when you started your first experiment with drugs. Which drugs were they, and what enticed that feeling?
Okay, I'm gonna need to be completely honest, because if you ask me about the drugs, then it means I have to give you the whole scoop, give you the full 411.
Thank you.
So I was a very experimental kid.
Okay.
I loved experimenting.
Yeah.
So because I used to see my elders around, they would be smoking, and I'd see them rolling cigarettes or rolling weed.
Yeah.
And as a young kid, you'd be picking up cigarette butts and you'd be standing there pretending that you're smoking
Sure.
and like you're cool. And then I figured out that, hey man, if I want to smoke,
Yeah.
let me start off with tea bags. I don't know what got into me. That I started rolling up tea bags.
Yeah.
And I started smoking tea bags, and then I realized that tea bags are not nice. They're actually quite rough on the throat.
Sure.
And the taste is not good. you
Yeah.
know? So I escalated from tea bags. I started experimenting with
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
Tree leaves.
Yeah, you know. So we started experimenting and then every time you'd roll it and you'd light up, and then it would always make that crackling sound, you know, like.
Yeah.
And then from my we started getting into the cigarettes.
Okay.
And then once I started getting into the cigarettes, I started smoking cigarettes fully from the age of 12. Yeah, from the age of 12. And then by the time I hit the age of 14, that's when I started experimenting with weed. And
So you started at 12.
yeah.
It was cigarette.
Cigarettes.
So my was somewhere around 11, 10 years.
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I started
It's my
early,
right
man.
hand.
We started early, man.
I know. Growing up as a young boy, those are the things that we passed through. So we do those things. I've actually witnessed as well. Growing up, seeing Marwai and how you do it and taking the leaves, crush them.
You've experimented
Yeah,
as well.
yeah.
Yes. You know, so by the time I hit the age of 14,
Yeah.
I'd already been through your inhalants, meaning your thinners, your turpentines, you know.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'd already started, but I didn't quite like the rush that you got from those ones because they kind of made you cuckoos a bit. You would start hallucinating and start hearing things, you know.
Okay.
Yeah, and then I got into weed, and it started as a group of guys in my neighborhood.
Sure.
You know, we were just a group of boys, a group of friends, and one of them came with weed, and we're like, hey man, let's try it. And from then on, I was like, man, this thing is nice. You know? This thing is nice.
You can tell like the way he's explaining it that that weed was so nice. Like, it's like someone you know when you smell flowers like as a lady, you like
Exactly.
and you put that
Exactly.
thing
Yeah. I
And
think it gives you that same feeling
yeah, you
as the
know.
lady smelling flowers.
So I got into weed, and then from weed, that's when I started escalating and experimenting with hard drugs. I got into your man drugs, I got into your ecstasies, I got
Yeah.
into your microdots.
So tell me, you are still in school at age 14.
Yes.
You are hard on drugs, literally.
Yeah, literally.
Very addicted.
Very addicted.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You're still going to school.
And I'm still going to school every single day.
And your parents, you're living in your parents' house.
Staying in my parents' house. And
Yeah.
at that point in time, they hadn't realized anything. Because we had methods of hiding. You know? We had methods of hiding. I'd always carry oranges or narkies, you know, citrus fruits. I'd always have eye drops in the bag, like your IGs and everything, just so that the eyes
Sneaky
clear.
14-year-old kid. Very sneaky.
You know, and then when you come home, you pretend like, hey, we were playing soccer, or we had sports at school, I need to take a bath.
Sure.
And you're smelling of citrus fruits and everything, and you know, everybody's thinking, no, it's okay.
Yeah.
And plus, because I was very active in sports while I was at school, so it would be a simple case of, man, you know what? He's eating a lot because Valley he has overexerted his energy on the field. Can't you know, I wasn't even on the field at that point in time. I was in another field.
But tell me, is it an age type of thing that you wanted to experience because you were of that age, or was it prompted by some sort of an experience that you might want to share perhaps? What prompted you to get into drugs?
Look, I had major self-esteem issues.
Okay.
Yeah,
Alright.
and they stem from the fact that I used to get bullied. You know, I used to get bullied at school, and I used to get bullied. You know?
Okay.
Until a certain point. You know, and also the environment at home wasn't kosher at that point in
Yeah.
Mom and dad had their own issues. And yeah, it was just a game farm, man. It was basically like you were stuck in the Kruger Park.
Yeah.
But you're perpetually stuck in the Kruger Park at night and you don't know what's coming. So it was just a way for me to try and escape that reality.
Yeah.
And the more I got into it, the more I thought to myself, yo man, this is actually helping me escape that reality. And I was just fooling myself, because from, like I said, there was microdots. So many. The list is endless. I'm like a walking encyclopedia. So I started getting into the hard drugs, and got into your cokes. Started sniffing.
But where do you take the money to buy these drugs?
Actually, barricades.
Okay, cool.
And
you take your pocket money.
Your pocket money, and you go and rakopana, and then we all just combine the money that each and every one of us has, and then we go and buy, and then we start indulging in that.
Yeah.
So it started off as a group thing.
Yeah.
But I quickly carved up a path for myself, whereby I was like, guys, this thing of sharing, man.
So it was more of a peer pressure type of a situation in school.
I actually am not a believer in peer pressure. I'm a really firm believer in no peer pressure at all. If I had to ask you to do something amongst a group of friends, 9 times out of 10 you would say no to the request that I'm asking. If we all pressured you and said, drop down your pants, bro, and just walk around naked for the next 2 days. That's the only way you'll be able to join us, And 9 times out of 10, you would tell us, no matter how much we pressurize you, you would always say no. Because something in you tells you that, this is not right.
This is not right.
This is not for me. So when it comes to peer pressure, I always make that example that nobody puts a gun to your head. Nobody forces you to do anything. It's your own decision at the end of the day.
But also, Sechaba, you are at that point in time, you are a son of this prominent figure.
Yeah.
Patrick Shai, who's famous, who's doing well in life.
Yeah.
The first time when they realized or suspected that you are onto something, what was going on? When did they realize that you were taking drugs?
I think it was going on, I was approaching my early 20s.
From 14
That's
to
like
6 years.
I've
got to give it to you.
It took a long time, but they could see the behavioral changes.
Sure.
They could see that complexion of funny change. Weight loss is there. And the behavior in and around the house is like, but this is weird. We wonder. And eventually, there was a point where I came home very high. I was very high. And by then I was on heroin, I was on nyaupe. So I was sitting with them in the dining room and we all eating, we're having supper. And here I am with my plate of food and we all watching TV. And they're like, but the plate I pay, since about me spoon ganji. And I'm falling asleep there, and my mouth is open and the spoon is trying to go into the mouth, but it's so slow, and you're like, so that's when it hit them. I think that's when it really hit them. No,
something is wrong.
No, something is very wrong.
Yeah.
So, long story short, they did drug test and they looked at my attendance at school because the complaints from school started coming in that I was bunking school. And I was also failing my grades. And so they could just tell that no. And even at school, the reports that they got, they're like, hey, he's hanging around these crowds and he's actually alone. He started off within the crowd and then he's starting to drift off away and he's missing. And when we try and investigate and hear what's the real cause of it, hey man, your son is dabbling in drugs, and look, Kimbedi, Kapira. Say what's up, there's no such. I stake my life on it. And then, after that, they started realizing that I started stealing things from the house. I would be stealing monies, I'd be stealing gadgets, I'd be stealing clothes, I'd be stealing food, so many things,
Sure.
And by that time, then I was full on in them. But I was still attending school, so I passed my matric, and then come college, I dropped out of college because then it was just hectic.
Okay.
And then from 2004 onwards, coming through, look, it was just hectic. It was just mad. It was just mad.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I ended up leaving home on a number of occasions.
Yeah.
A number of occasions, and people tend to think that it's because of the fact that I was on the drugs.
Yeah.
And it's not actually that. The reason that 90% of us actually leave home and we end up in the streets is because we come to a point where we realize that we have caused so much damage.
Yeah. You mentioned 2004.
Yeah.
That's like 16 years ago,
Yeah.
17 years ago now.
Yeah.
Now it's 2022.
Yeah.
So how many years you've been?
Hey man, at 17 years plus.
You.
Probably half of your life.
It's more than half of my life.
Yeah.
So from then on, I was in and out of home. They'd always try to bring me back and say, hey bro, let's go to rehab. And I'd always say yes. And then get to the rehab center because I think I know it all. I'm a smarty pants, And I'm like, I'd always be telling them, nah, you guys don't even know what you're doing, And this is how you're actually supposed to be doing things. Canteen.
Sure.
I learned a very harsh lesson. It doesn't matter which institution you go to. It doesn't matter whether it's the most expensive one, whether it's the free one. It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Even if it's out in the bushes, you will never be comfortable in such an institution.
Yeah.
So from someone who's experienced around drugs, like you mentioned, your ecstasy, you Mendrex,
Yeah.
Nyaupe, I know there's different impact.
Yes.
How it reacts to you,
Yes.
all these different drugs.
Man.
So how do you jump from one to the other one? There's a strong one or there's a weak one?
They all vary in degrees, right? Literally every one of us finds our drug of choice. And until you find your drug of choice, you'll constantly be experimenting with a lot of drugs. But once you find your drug of choice, you stick to it. So for me, my drug of choice was always Nyaupe, it was always heroin. And yes, I would always take my heroin, but I would have other substances as well. But my drug of choice has always been heroin. And I had to look at my character traits.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm a very high energy person, like naturally so. I'm when the opportunity comes, hey, look, born, I'm a completely different person. And then I realized that heroin is a suppressant. It helps to bring my energy down, it helps to calm me down, and I'll be sitting there and I'll be like, what, this is actually what I need, And I had to look at that character trait of mine and I'm like, but this is the real cause of it. I'm basically just running away from just being myself. And look, I would go into your crystal meths, your cats, like I said, your cocaines, there's so many. There's so many.
Sechaba, it's widely known, even on last week's episode, we had your mother talking about her journey through, gender-based violence.
Yes.
I'm sure you have experienced that at home.
Definitely.
And probably it might have impacted how you took drugs or got into, or how heavily, it might have, propelled you.
But one thing that was propelling me into the drugs is that it was just that one thought. One thought and that one emotion, a feeling of complete powerlessness and being helpless, that there's absolutely nothing I can do to help change the situation at home at this current point in time.
So when you were experiencing the gender-based violence at home, your father abusing your mother, how did that affect you as a person, as a boy child at home? The magnitude of abuse?
I lost my hero, guys. During those times, I looked up to my dad with everything. He was always number one.
Nice.
But once I started experiencing that side of him, it all went south for me. that one person that I used to look up to and say, yeah, you know what, my dad is the be all and end all of everything. It completely just took him from his pedestal that I placed him on, and it was very hard for me to actually put him back there, to get him to sit back on his seat and say, you know what, Dad, this is actually your seat.
Yeah.
You know, this is where you belong. So it took the longest of times for me to come to terms with the fact that, you know what, hey man, Dad has got issues, and I don't want to lie, it impacted me, but I love my father to bits, and I always appreciate the fact that he always told me different.
Yeah.
He always said to me that, look, you can look at the situation between me and your mom, and you can look at how I am, and what I'm doing is actually not right. You need to be more different. You need to be better than I am. And it's a contrast. You know? And I struggled with that contrast. That you're telling me this, but this is what you're doing. You know? And I'm like, but, you know,
contradicting the situation.
Yeah, you know, and it was only at a later stage in life when I had to sit down with my father. And I said to him, you know what, Chita, I fully understand. And I completely forgive you. You know, I completely understand. You guys had your issues. There's no relationship that doesn't have issues.
Yeah.
There is no perfect relationship.
That is so true. So do you think as the firstborn,
yeah,
you know, at home, you might have failed your parents in some way, even your siblings as well?
Yes, I have.
Yeah.
Yeah, on multiple occasions.
Sure.
Yeah, I do not run away from the fact that I have disappointed them on so many occasions.
And have you forgiven yourself?
Yes, I have, actually. And it is the most liberating feeling to forgive yourself, because first I forgive myself and I come and apologize to you and I ask you, hey man, please forgive me for what I did to you, man.
Yeah.
It is up to you how you take it from that point on. I've already done my part. You understand? And once I've done my part, hey, look, I'm good. You know, I'm good. I made peace with it and I move on. So I first had to really look at myself and be on some, okay, sharp. I was feeling powerless, I was feeling helpless. I just think though, the truth is that I was a young child and I was trying to carry a burden that was not mine to begin with.
So take us back to a situation where your father would have that interaction with your mom, arguing or maybe fighting in front of you. You never, in your mind, it never came to a point that maybe you would want to fight your father, trying to protect your mom, or...
Look, there's so many things that I did, man, you know, there's so many things. I got to a point where I wrote him a very harsh letter. And I told him, like, hey, bro, look, from here on out, one of us is going to the grave, man, you know. And I told him straight. And he was like, hey, man, what are you saying? And then what escalated the situation was that he actually found a bullet.
So attached a bullet on the letter.
I didn't attach the bullet. Okay. I wrote him the harsh letter and then he went through my room and then next thing he finds a bullet and he's like, hi, this one is mine, this one. No. And the bullet was not meant for him. And I picked it up and I don't know what I was planning to do with it.
Yeah.
And I kept it in my room in my drawer. And on that day, he went through my bedroom and he found it. And then he started connecting the dots. And then he's like, hi.
And you just said one of us is going to the grave.
Yeah. What is this?
And one thing that's funny with these people that are abusive.
Yeah.
They are scared.
They are very scared.
They are very scared. And that's surprising because these guys, they become a monster, right? In front of you.
Sure.
And now when you retaliate, they get scared like nobody's business.
Yeah, definitely. But also bear in mind that it's not just a thing about power. It's actually, you have to look at the emotional state and the mental state of the person. You understand? My father grew up in a time where there was no such thing as psychiatrists. There was no such thing as counseling. It was always a case of end of Daukan. We are clean, you know, you keep it together, you stay strong. And growing up in that environment, it impacted me.
Yeah.
And like I said, it was only at a later stage when I started getting the full story and I started understanding where he was coming from. And I was like, oh, okay, so this is why you like this. you actually need to resolve those issues because you've got issues within yourself that are not resolved. And if you're not going to resolve those issues, look, the cycle is just going to continue.
Yeah.
And when he started changing, the hardest part of it was that you didn't believe
it's genuine or not.
right? You're genuine. Like you've said that you're changing so many times, you're so used to it.
Yeah.
And we could see the change, but we just refused to believe it.
No,
and
the irony. Your father, when he claimed to have changed, you could not believe him. Now, when you kept on telling your family that you have changed, you're no longer into drugs. And perhaps there was that bit of a skepticness. How did that make you feel?
It made me realize the state that he was in when he was trying to change, while he was taking the journey of change.
Yeah.
And it's a necessary process.
Yeah.
The reason why I say it's a necessary process is because bear in mind that because of the environment that I introduced, the lifestyle that I introduced into the household, I made them like that. And I cannot blame them. I have to take full responsibility for that. That you know what?
Yeah.
I made y'all be to get to that level and be so insecure and be so untrustable and be not trusting, especially when it comes to me.
Yes.
And it's because of my own actions and my decisions. Nobody else.
Yeah.
So I came to that realization and I'm like, you know what? I can't force the situation. But with not forcing the situation, I have to accept it for what it is.
Yeah.
And there's a saying that they say, put up or shut up. And at that point in time, I was like, okay, you know what? I'm not going to put up, I'm just going to shut up. Because a lot of times I was putting up trying to fight the situation and trying to prove the point. Yeah. And I was like, but what point am I trying to prove here? You know? So I was like, I'm not proving no point to nobody.
So when was your last fix, and when did you realize or literally decide that I need help? I am going to rehab.
Yeah, I was in Florida.
Yeah,
and I was staying in the streets in Florida.
Okay.
So first my little sister, Shai, she came through and she was looking for me in Florida. Okay. And we met up, and by sheer luck, sheer coincidence, we met up. And we had a small conversation, and she's like, okay, look, if I look for you, anytime I look for you, where can I find you? And I told her, man, you can come here, there's this guy that I know, we'll go to a shop, you can call, and then anytime he sees me, he'll give me the message, you know? Because I'm constantly around there.
Sure.
So she's like, okay, let me go speak to Batswai Gondu. And she went and she had a conversation with them, and then my mom started coming.
Okay.
And after my mom started coming, the one day was she came with my dad at that point in time. And we greeted, you know, and I hadn't spoken to my dad for like 2 years. You know, no conversation, nada. Even if I saw him on the street, pass on by, walk on by, bro. You know, the relationship had deteriorated to that extent. So when he came, the first thing that he said was, hello, my son, how you doing? And that just broke me to pieces. It just broke all my defenses down. I was like, oh my God, you know, what's this now? Why are you calling me your son after 2 years? And it just broke me, and he's like, okay, we hear you, are you good? Are you alright? I was like, yeah, I'm good, I'm okay, man, you know? And they're like, okay, so when are you coming home? I was like, hey guys, right now. And they're like, okay, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, right now. They're like, okay, but you know that you're gonna go to a rehab center, right? And I'm like, look, I've gone to rehab centers before, but right now, I don't need to go in, look, I'm tired, you know? Sure. And part of the reasoning for that was because I went through 2 overdoses. And by God's grace, I just woke up, I just survived those 2 overdoses. The first time I woke up in hospital. The second time I was completely on my own. I was just out in Strati. And it was late at night. And look, I just heard somebody calling me 3 times, and then I get a papa. I'm like, hey man, why was there's nobody here? There's nobody here. And then I looked at myself and I'm like, but wait, what happened? Yeah. And I couldn't even recollect. Okay, what happened? The last time I checked, it was about 4 in the afternoon. And I go down into the CBD, and the guys are like, hey, bro, where you been? We haven't seen you for the last 2 days. And I'm like, I was out for 2 days. I was like, no. The next time I'm going to be out for good. No.
Yeah. And you felt that was it.
And that was it. And
Yeah.
then they took me to Itemba Recovery Foundation. They are based in Pili, but at that point in time they were based in Orlando.
All right.
So I met up with the guys and they're like, hi bruv. I went home on Sunday.
Yeah.
Sunday evening, the guys came. And
Which year was that?
it was in 2021.
Okay. All right.
And it was the 24th of May. I remember the date exactly.
Yeah.
It was a Sunday, the 24th of May, and I'm sitting at home and I'm having my last fix. And here I am, I'm thinking, tomorrow morning I've still got a bit of cash. Before we go to the center, we're gonna get my last fix and then go to the center, you know. And then my folks woke me up in the morning, they're like, okay, bro, pack your bags, we gotta go. And at that point in time, I've got no bags because everything had been sold. You know, I just had the clothes on me. So I just got dressed, took a bath, got dressed. I couldn't even eat, you know. So I got there and I got admitted. They did the mandatory drug test and I tested positive for mandrax, for heroin, for coke, for crystal meth.
Yeah.
Right, so I tested positive and for marijuana as well. So they looked at that drug test and were like, hey bruv, yo. Basically, I've covered all of them in one shot. So I stayed there and I did my 3 months program labor on there. And then what actually made me realize that, you know what, I've had enough. The COO of the center, because Lena used to sleep at the center with us.
Okay.
One night I was looking at it for like 3 days, and I'm like, but these guys aren't blocking nothing, you know. And I'm sitting there and I'm like, yo, if I really want to go, I can go because everybody's sleeping. It's at night, you know. And I'm like, okay, but if I go, where do I go? Because I can't go back home. If I go back home, they're gonna send me back.
Yeah.
And if I go back to the streets, I'm gonna go back to the same thing, you know. And I'm like, let me just stay. And on the 4th day when he woke up, I told him straight, I'm like, hey bruv, do you realize that for the last couple of days you guys haven't been locking the gates, you haven't been locking the doors, nothing. And he's like, hey, so why didn't you run? I'm like, where was I gonna go? Like, where to, bruh? I was just real and honest with him and I asked him, like, where do I go though? Yeah. Because if I go home, they're gonna bring me back. If I go to the streets, I'm not gonna come back. But chances are you guys are gonna come out and try and look for me and everything. But
so tell me, when you guys overdose drugs, is it something that you do intentionally?
No, it's
You
unintentional.
just go on and on. It's so nice that you keep on going.
And sometimes you can have the smallest amount. People tend to think that you have to take large quantities.
Yeah,
It's just the smallest
that's
amount.
actually what I'm thinking. You just
Same
need to
here.
take like 4 bags in a row back to
I
back.
could hear you saying, did you have to go on and on?
No, on the night when it happened, I had 3 bags on me, 3 bags of heroin, and I only took 2.
So wait. It was normal of you taking.
What's the largest quantity you've ever taken?
I'm taking about 15 or 16.
In one day.
Remember that with every substance, your body builds resistance. Hence, that's why you keep chasing the fix, you keep chasing the high, because your body has built resistance.
Yeah.
Quick example: if you're not a drinker or you're not a smoker, right? But let me just make that example with drink of alcohol.
Yeah.
We pour you a glass of wine. That one glass of wine is gonna knock you, man. The first time you have it, you know?
Yes.
And then the second time you have it, it's still gonna knock you, but not the same. Already the body is starting to build resistance to it. Hence, that's why you go from 1 glass to 2, from 2 glasses to 3, from 3 glasses to the whole bottle, from the whole bottle to a whole case, and from the cases the whole time, the whole night type of thing, you know? So your body built up resistance to it. And once the body has built enough resistance to it, you're not going to get the same feeling anymore. So you keep chasing that first feeling that you got, but you're not getting there. So you keep on telling yourself that I need to take more and more and more and more and more. Now I got to a point where I was just taking the substances, I was just taking drugs just to function normally. Just to function, because I needed to sleep. And if I'm not taking the drugs, I can't sleep. I needed to eat, and if I'm not high, I'm not going to be able to eat. You know, your body starts changing, and it starts craving to that point where your internal bodily functions, they just start shutting down. And for you just to maintain that sense of normality, that's why I was taking it. That's how far I got. That, you know, I'm just taking it just to feel normal, just to function like a normal human being.
Yeah.
And there's a point where you are sober, you're like a normal person now.
Yeah.
And you can see what you're doing is wrong.
Yes.
Smoking drugs.
Even when I was high.
Even when you're high.
Yeah.
Oh, okay. Interesting. So it never came to your mind, you know what, let me rather just stop now.
Look, with the substances that I was on, especially with heroin, it's a very harsh substance to get onto, because the withdrawal syndromes themselves, they are hectic. Yeah, you go through insomnia, you go through stomach cramps, and you go through joint pain, you go through diarrhea, you go through vomiting, and it's almost like you're in a fever. 2 minutes, 1 minute you're feeling hot, and you've got a blanket on you kick it off, and then with 5 minutes later, you're feeling so cold. And you're sweating and you're yawning and
yeah, I would hear the guys like cramps.
But here's the thing about withdrawal syndromes. That's the body's natural way of taking out the toxins in your system. It's basically a hangover, but it's 1,000 times worse. You know, and one thing I think it's the movie Trainspotting. I'm not quite sure. It's an old movie. And one of the users in that movie, he described it perfectly. And I could completely relate to it. They asked him, why are you doing heroin? And he's like, take the feeling you get when you have an orgasm. I'm sorry to say that.
Yeah.
Sorry to excuse that.
Not a good example.
And he's like, take the feeling you get when you have an orgasm, right?
Yeah.
And you multiply by 1,000 times. Right? That feeling you multiply by 1,000 times. You still haven't come to 1% of the feeling I get when I get that rush.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey man, like, I feel you. You are so right, man. That is so true.
How genuine are you that you're never gonna go back there?
Look, I've got so many things that I need to look at right now.
Yeah.
But more than anything, it's my life right now. I had to learn to prioritize myself over and above everything and everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I need to come first. You're not going to put me first. I have to put myself first. I'm not going to put you first. You got to put yourself first. You understand?
Yeah.
So I got to that point where I was like, hey, bro, look, every day I wake up, ask myself one question. Do we relapse or don't we relapse? Look at the pros and cons. And the cons outweigh the pros. And I'm like, I'm not going back there. No, I'm good.
So what came to your mind? Take us through that very moment when you heard that Mr. Patrick Shai is normal. That very moment. As a firstborn, what happened to you? What came to your mind? Like, now, this is you now.
Everything went blank. You know, people talk about load shedding, and you just think, okay, the switch just goes, and then a couple of hours later, somebody will switch on that switch. For me, nobody switched it on. Everything just went blank. It just went blank. And they tell me that, hey, bro, this is what you were supposed to do. I'm like, you don't even understand. At that moment, at that point in time, I was just blank. I went blank. I went completely blank. I went completely numb. I went, look, I can't even explain the emotions that I was going through. Because the Friday before, he was alive, he was there, he was sitting with mom on the table and they were having a discussion, and I don't even know what the discussion was about. And that's why I left them. And then the next day, around about 3 to 4 in the morning, I'm hearing movement in the yard. I look out and he's going back into the yard, into the house. And I'm like, it's just that we just used to him waking up very early in the morning and just doing whatever it is that he does, you know?
Sure.
So I went back to sleep. 8:30, mom comes in and she wakes me up and she's like, hey, bro, come through and see. Your dad's in the garage and he's harmed himself. I went out rushing and I got in there, and I'll never forget that day, man. I'll never forget the picture that I saw, and it's one picture that will never leave my mind. And the one thing I always tell people is that the look on his face. Just the look on his face. And the cleanliness of how he took his life. It was very clean. When people hang themselves, you know they get messy and everything. With him, there was no mess at all. And it only speaks to one fact, that he didn't suffocate himself, he broke his neck.
So you're recovering from substance abuse.
Yes,
you're
and I only spent 3 months with him after coming back from rehab.
You now have to deal with the loss of your father.
Yeah.
Now the struggles. Were you not for one moment craving for a fix, perhaps? More like a relapse? Has it?
I don't want to lie to you. When I say I went blank, my mind went blank for the longest of times.
Okay.
It went blank, and it's only at a later stage when I started thinking to myself, but hey bro, you went through this and you just went blank, you just went numb. And I'm like, yeah, I went numb and I just didn't function. I was just, okay, yeah, sharp, yes, that's gone, yeah, sharp. Just do the mandatory things in life, you know?
Yeah.
Life goes on, it's mandatory, but I was not there. I was not present. I had removed myself completely from that whole entire situation. And I had to bring myself back and say, hey bro, you know what? I need to come back because I'm so utterly removed from everything. So I started coming back and people are like, hey bro, so you're not even thinking of drinking? I'm like, okay, sorry.
Yeah.
I'm not even there. You're not even thinking about getting a hit. Like, you don't even know and understand what it is that I'm thinking or that I'm going through right now, you know? So I always tell him one thing, that my dad always wanted one thing for me in life, and that was for me to be who I am today and be how I am today.
Yeah.
So he's passed away right now.
Sure.
If I relapse, I would have broken all of that. That everything that he did for me would have been for nothing. You understand? Everything that my mother did for me would have been for nothing. Everything that my sister, my brother did for me would have been for nothing.
That
You
is
understand?
profound.
And everything that God did for me to take me through that whole entire process would have been for nothing.
Very
You
profound.
understand? I wouldn't have learned the lessons.
Yeah.
So the reason why we have regrets most of the time is because we fail to see the lessons. And once you start seeing and accepting the lessons, that's when you stop regretting. And I had to start seeing the lessons. And I learned the lessons. And once I learned the lessons, I look at my life right now and you ask me, hey Brian, you were a drug addict. Yes. Don't you regret anything? No. Why must I regret it?
Yeah.
Because that was a path that was meant for me. You understand? That was a path that was meant for me so that I could learn valuable lessons. There's a little, you know, everybody likes to text and they're like, lol. But it was 3 letters.
Yeah.
For me, lol doesn't mean laugh out loud.
Yeah.
For me, it's just lessons of life. And that's what lol means for me. So every time you say lol and I look at that statement, I'm like, yo, Konja, this is another life lesson. So I constantly look at the lessons. It doesn't matter what the situation is. It doesn't matter what it is that I'm going through. I might not see it and understand it at that point in time, but I have to learn the lesson.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So of all the lessons that you learned from your dad at a young age, growing up as a boy, you didn't want to be, obviously looking at your father, being an inspiration in your life.
Yes.
You didn't want to be like him, probably act, maybe see yourself on TV, following his footsteps.
But then I would have been living up to people's expectations and neglecting my own. I've got my own expectations. I've got my own journey to walk. You understand? So now, if I had decided to say, look, I want to act, I want to be like dad, and one day, it runs in the family. It just runs in the family. We creative like that.
Yeah.
You understand? But the pressure that comes with it is that now you gotta fill his shoes. And I always tell people that it's gonna sound wrong, but I'm sorry for saying it. Is that my dad wore a size 8, I wore a size 10. So unfortunately for me, if you're gonna ask me, hey, don't you want to walk in your dad's shoes? The first thing I'm gonna tell you is that I can't. We don't wear the same shoe size.
Yeah.
We don't. You understand? He had his own journey that he had to walk, and he walked his journey fully, even till the day that he died. I always tell people that I do not blame him. I don't blame him, because whether he had died in a car accident or whether it doesn't matter if he had died in his sleep, it still would have hit the same. You understand? It still would have hit the same. So I do not blame him. It was his way of going, and it's him and God and the underground gang that decided on it, and they had that contract between themselves, you know.
One
And
thing, you know, I like, you sound like a person who's in the right space, you know, in the right state of mind even.
yeah,
What is it that you're currently working with as part of your recovery?
right now I am
And to better your own life.
to better my own life.
Yeah.
One thing that I learned is that it's not about me anymore.
Okay.
It's not about me. One of the fundamental lessons that I learned in life is that we tend to forget that we have to serve others. So my purpose in life is to serve others. Whether I benefit from it or I don't, it's neither here or there.
Yeah.
But as long as I am serving others, if out of 100 people that come up to me and they're like, hey bro, we need help, if I can just have one,
Nice.
mandate, mission accomplished, it's done. You understand? And then I can move on again and look at the next 100 and be like, okay, maybe if I can help 2, maybe if I can help 3. But it's a step-by-step process. So right now, trying to push Dad's legacy so that it doesn't die. And I also gotta put my story out there and walk my own journey.
Yeah.
And hopefully, I hope that with my journey and my story, there's somebody who can grab something from it and be like, some look, hey man, maybe I also can do it. You know, if I can, then what's stopping you though? I saw a billboard today that said, you are your own limit. And it made so much sense to me. And I was like, but this is very true though. I limit myself, so why must I limit myself? I'm not going to limit myself to anything. You know, and I'm one type of person. Look, if you say to me, Entama, we gotta go clean toilets, I'll go and clean toilets. Entama, we gotta go do this and that, I'll go just for the sake of learning and acquiring a new skill or a new knowledge that I would not necessarily have acquired if I had stuck in that comfort zone. So I'm not a person that loves comfort zones.
Yeah.
I don't love comfort zones. I don't like being comfortable.
So you speak about your family who've been very instrumental in
Yes.
your recovery, in the person that you are today.
Yes.
What would be the message that you'd like to say to them? I'm sure perhaps if you had never said this, you know,
Yeah.
right to their faces, what would be, you know, to speak from the heart, what would
From
be?
the heart,
Even
You know,
if
the
whatever
first
it is that you
thing I
felt,
would do is apologize to for everything that I put them through. I apologize fully from the bottom of my heart, like, yo guys, I'm so sorry. I fully apologize for it. But also on the flip side, it's my journey. This is the path that was set before me that I have to walk.
Yeah.
You know, and I'm very thankful for the support. And look, family over everything, man. Family over everything.
Bro.
You know?
Family
So
over
they come
everything.
first.
They come first, yeah.
Yeah.
So what is your message to youth out there
Yeah.
who are still in that undecisive situation where they want to get into drugs or focus on their career? What would be your message to them?
Yeah. Even
After
those who are taking drugs.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Find yourself. Find your purpose. Find your purpose. Find yourself. Know what it is that you have to do. Know how you have to do it.
Yeah.
And then go out and do it.
Nice.
Nobody's going to do it for you, man. That's just my message. You know, I can't say to you, hey, don't do drugs. We've all heard that. You know, and look, even alcohol is going to stick a warning sticker that says alcohol is dangerous, but who listens? You know? So who listens? So you just got to find yourself and find your purpose in life
Yeah.
and do that.
So now, since you're a changed person,
Yeah.
of all your friends in the community, are you still being judged?
look, you can judge me as much as you want.
Yeah.
You can judge me as much as you want. What that says is that you're not putting up a front. You are making me a point of discussion so that you can hide your own problems. So I become a reference point. It's like you're watching TV. You know, I become that point that you can go to so that you can forget about it. But then once the conversation and the discussion is finished, you go back to yourself and you still got your own problems and issues that you need to resolve.
Yeah.
You understand? So if you want to judge me, by all means do it. I'm not judging you for it. I don't even care if you judge me.
Yeah.
You understand? I'm at that point in time in my life where I'm like, you can say whatever you want to say about me. You can judge me as much as you want to judge me.
Yeah.
I am doing myself at this point in time. And look, there's nothing that can shake me right now from where I am. Look, what I was going to do.
Yeah.
You know?
One thing for sure, we are happy for this man that we are seeing today.
Yeah,
right?
exactly.
No, thank you.
Speaking
Thank you
about
very
your
much.
journey, with
Thank you
pride,
very much.
beaming with pride, openly.
Yeah.
Now we see the self-esteem,
Yeah.
it's boosted now.
It's boosted.
Right?
Definitely.
Yeah.
This is it.
And this is what
Substance
we-
abuse is very dangerous.
Yes,
We
exactly.
have
This
to
is what
emphasize.
we always talk about in this show. Yeah.
Definitely.
Coming to these white couches, guys, this is exactly the same thing that we talk about, all the bad things that we go through as an individual, and then we
And the good
change
things.
as time goes on, and we realize whatever that we were doing, it was wrong, and we come up with a solution. So we don't just come with problems, but we end up with
What
With
solutions?
solutions.
Yes.
But one fundamental, I like to learn from our discussions. I always am a good listener between the two of us. Like, the good listener is this
You
one.
can throw under the bus.
This is the good listener. So
Yeah.
this is what I took from the discussion. Never have self-imposed limitations.
Exactly.
Right?
Yeah.
Talking about the billboard and
Mhm.
be your own limit. Be your own limit.
Yeah.
Like,
Don't be your own limit.
Don't be.
Yeah.
Okay, now I can't listen vividly. No,
Lord.
I'm kidding.
Lord, essence of life.
I like how you do it. So you also said when you stop having regrets,
You learn lessons. You start appreciating the lessons that you're being taught.
Aye man, when I retro faro motivational speaker, yeah, Mzansi Podcast,
Yes.
right?
Thank you.
Thank you so much, guys, for tuning in. This is Shai,
Yeah.
talking about his life experiences, recovering from substance abuse,
Yeah, definitely.
life after losing his father, who has played a pivotal role into the man that he is today. I'm also grateful to his mother as well for the support. And bitso wa ka tshepi, o itse re etsa ntho tse right. Tshepi, nna le wena re etsa ntho tse right.
Yeah.
O itse ke happy.
And it's not just my family. There's been also other external people that have helped me on my journey of recovery. So I'm not going to drop names, but I just say thank you very much.
But
thank
there's
you
no
for-
Ayanda there from those people.
Ayanda.
Yeah.
No.
Okay, that was-
There is an Ayanda.
Ayanda.
He's the only Ayanda. So welcome aboard, Ayanda.
Bitso ya ka ke happy.
Yeah,
I
you know.
appreciate.
Yeah.
The one and only Ayanda.
And you are the one and only.
Yes.
Rona bo tshepi ra leboga re etsa dilo tse right. Re na le bo Sechaba Shai on Mzansi Podcast, doing the most, encouraging youth out there to say, please take good care of yourself. Never have self-imposed limitations. Fall but fall forward.
Exactly.
Until next time, this is how we roll on.